There we go.
I'm sure that was not as graceful as it could have been.
Welcome aboard, gentlemen. We have reached another episode of Dum Thirsty Thursday. And boy, oh boy, do we have an extra special? Wait, what would ABE say? A treat especial. We have the man, the one, none the other, Paul Castleberry!
What up, dude? I gotta say, like, seriously, I should have known you would have pulled some kind of crap like that at the beginning. I mean, like, Real Odette won't let that clip die. Just won't let it die.
It's gonna go down forever. We need to get it trending in Jiffy or Tenor or one of those hosting apps for GIFs. And so that way, whenever somebody has some sort of like graceful reaction or something, like someone doing a ballet and they trip and fall, everybody can reply with Castleberry trying to maneuver a reel mower out of a shed. I think it would just be perfect. Perhaps if someone could put the shed on fire, I'd be a bigger fan because, as we all know, I enjoy burning structures. Structure fires never cease to amaze me and make my heart race in a positive way. Speaking of making my heart race in a positive way, Mr. DeMay, how the hell are you doing, sir? Welcome.
Oh, yeah, it's been a busy week. It's been a controversial week, too, hasn't it, really? You know, with Turf Truth coming out, and it was funny today, right before I came on here, just a little time before, Sean Smith, Hungry Southerner, gave me a call, and I was chatting with him for a minute, and I thought, man, I'm getting ready. I'm thinking about Turf Truth. He's on my brain, and here's the guy who everybody thinks is Turf Truth, but really isn't. And it sent me down this, like, you know, that like you're talking to somebody on the telephone and you have that quick thought spiral where they're talking, but you're thinking about something completely else and spinning up this whole thing in your head. And I thought, man, Turf Truth. And then I thought, well, I thought about Turf Truth, and I thought, what if I had a soil of my own, you know, kind of like my own, but I didn't know it was in it. And then that got me to thinking, well, then Sean, I picked up something else he said, and he said he was going to the lake with his boys this weekend. And I thought, man, what if I had a lake house lawn? Wouldn't that be a model life for me to live? And so that's just kind of where I'm at. My head was in the clouds until we had this conversation right now. I had to get it out there, right? So I'm excited to have Castleberry, though, tonight, because this guy, he is the most uncontroversial person you'll ever meet. You know, he literally is like center field, right? He is like the main street of turf, right? He does no wrong. He just shows you what he's got. He does his thing, and everybody's happy, and I'm glad to have him on. So welcome, sir. Welcome. Ray, what are you up to tonight? What are you doing?
Well, let's see. I'm just thinking about what's on my plate tomorrow.
Were you thinking a ribeye or, you know, a big juicy burger? What do you get? Oh,
yeah.
Or some Pylex Sencor and Fusillade, you know, to go out and smoke something.
No, actually, I'm gonna do one better in that I'm probably going to be laying waste to another several acres of trees and vines.
I smell fluroxapyr in your future, baby.
Fluroxapyr is not allowed in Hawaii.
Oh, man.
But
I thought you were going to say treasonous monsters or something like that. It almost sounded like you were going to go after treason.
No, but what I was telling you, yeah, after Sunday, I know.
Yeah, wait till.
But Ryan, the good news is that I can get my hands on the real tree killer here in Hawaii.
What's that? Steel chainsaw? Oh,
No,
There you go.
what used to be Imprelis.
oh, you were telling me about that. Yeah. So, real quick, because we like to talk about products and everything like this. And Castleberry might not even know about this, right? About the Wonder product that really was amazing, but had to go away for. Why don't you just tell real quick? Give them the background, Matt. Maybe you can jump in here too, because I'm sure you sprayed a lot of it. I sprayed a lot of it. I found it to be a fantastic product. Just if you kept it about 10 to 15 to 20 feet away from any tree, particularly conifers.
Yeah,
Ray,
yeah. Imprelis was the amazing product for clover and wild violets, especially in cool season lawns. Use rate on it was, I think, approximately 3 to 4 ounces per acre. However, things like juniper, cypress, arborvitae, spruce, and fir trees were allergic to even trace amounts of it, such that a label rate application of it in a lawn would cause all of the trees to mysteriously become sick and die. And at that time, I believe it was DuPont that
Yes.
was
Yep.
the marketer of that product. And by the way, DuPont just has bad luck with turf and ornamental products.
DuPont
Because-
has been like the leader of just absolute screw ups.
Shed
I
fires,
mean-
shed fires,
Shed
fire,
fires,
yeah.
Yeah,
not only shed
because-
fires, but you got to remember the part where they came out and they said, well, we'll pay you like $1,000 a tree, and everybody. That was like Matt saying, you know what, I'm going to take this garden hose and I'm going to put out an entire structure fire in my backyard. And then the fire department showing up and being like, is this guy on bath salts?
Dude.
Like, what the hell is he doing with that garden soap? What's he doing?
Stiff armed me. The guy Heisman posed me right out of the way, toting a charged fire hose over his shoulder. Stiff arm me, sir. Back
Nice.
up, you tool. I was like, "Oh, my bad. Go ahead, take it out.
Yeah.
Ignore me with my stretchy hose. The 0G stretchy hose.
Oh
That's like-
man!
It's like 20 feet too short, and I'm thumbing it over the edge, and trying to hit. What if I just be patient and keep spraying the same spot? It won't be so embarrassing when the fireman stiff arms me to the ground and just like stomps all over it. And he's got a damn hook, and he's just yanking it all to the ground and smashing it. And I was like,
So,
boy, I am.
What was the conversation after they put it out? Is what I want to know.
Oh, yeah, it was exactly like this. I am so humiliated. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I'm so stupid. I am so sorry. And the guy just
They
looked
get
at
that
me
every
like,
day.
shut up, and just went right on back about his business. And then the chief came up, and she was a real nice lady, and she was like, don't worry about it. This happens more common than you would think. I was like, really? People burning their grass and setting structures on fire? She said, yeah, it's common. I was like, okay, I'm not alone out here.
Just
There
nice.
are more of me.
Did you go back to the Scrunchy Hose review video and leave it a negative comment? Because you got the affiliate link. Like, that would have been the real like full circle YouTube number for you as a creator. Would have been, man, I'm gonna get
Missed
that guy.
opportunity.
Like,
It was.
Absolutely.
Can I go back and redo the review with like live reenactments of everything that was going on?
yes,
Wait till Thanksgiving. Wait till Thanksgiving and deep fry frozen turkey. Let's
Start a fire with a frozen turkey in a deep fryer, and then try and put it out with the 0G, because
Yeah.
everybody knows oil fires and water go real well together, right?
it's perfect.
typically
Yeah,
what
just
you're
make
supposed
sure to
do.
reach out to them so they send you, like 3 or 4 free ones, and you just connect them all together and stretch it for like a football field and do it that way.
So don't
I
do
like
it
where this is
in my
going.
kitchen, is what you're saying.
Yeah, don't.
I mean,
At that point, you probably want to wait to call the fire department until it's really at a total loss. Yeah, that'd be my, yeah.
Probably.
Honey,
we're gonna give
pull
it
out that
15 minutes
insurance
or so
policy.
here.
See
Yeah.
what we're covered
Kids
for.
aren't going to college.
Yeah, I got a
So now
wild
that-
hair up my ass.
So now that we've covered, Ray did get a little bit of death talk in there, and we've covered insurance fraud. Let's get to the grass, right? Like,
Yeah.
And let's start.
All right.
Let's start with the soil test. And so,
yeah.
Castleberry, let's get a little bit of a background here. Where do you live? What kind of grass are you growing? How long you been there? What have you done to it? Just give us a little history.
All right, so living in the U.S. of A. for starters, right?
America.
There it is. America. Utah. We are in Utah. We are in northern Utah, about 30 minutes north of Salt Lake City. We are growing Kentucky bluegrass. And what was the other questions? I kind of spaced out when you were talking.
How long you had it? What have you done to it, if anything?
There it is.
That kind of fun stuff.
So we haven't even been here a year yet. So we haven't had, I mean, this will be our first growing season. We moved in right at the beginning of January. When we moved in, we really focused on the backyard first because there was no backyard. The previous homeowners, they had, I think it was 3 or 4 dogs, and they had torn up probably 2/3 of the grass, and it was just all dirt. And then they put down 2 cement pads back there on top of the existing sprinkler system and left 1/3 of the grass just left to do whatever. So we had to come in and redo the entire sprinkler system. We had to bring in topsoil. And then we decided to go with sod instead of throwing down seed because we have 2 very extremely rambunctious boys that we were bathing constantly from being out in the dirt and the mud, and that just got old quick. So we wanted grass as quickly as possible back there. So we decided to go the trash grass route and throw down some sod. So did that, gave it one feeding of fertilizer. I can't even remember the analysis on it. That's how insignificant it was. Because we did not, like maybe 1/4 pound of nitrogen, and that was it. And then the lawn gods turned on us and jacked our temperatures up literally overnight into triple digits. We're getting upwards of 100 degrees. And then we had grubs creep in. And we had
Really?
water restrictions put in place.
Mm-mm.
So it was a perfect crap storm for us to just throw down sod and have a lot of it just slowly crumble and die. So that's the quick
Wow.
and dirty of it.
Wow.
That
There's a lot
sounds
going on
like, yeah, a really good time.
Oh, it was so great. It was so
Painful.
fun to watch. So fun to watch it just shrivel up and die in front of your eyes.
there. In that
But-
case, I'll be I'm going to say that there's not a ton that you could have done with that, especially with the water restrictions in place. Like maybe you overcome some of that heat, but with no root system and water restriction, like and new sod, like that's just absolute worst nightmare. So I wouldn't be kicking myself. Those are external factors you can't really control. You just have to manage through. So present day, right? We've got the soil test. Was this? Let's talk about the soil test real quick. So that was before you did the sod, or has this been since that you've actually taken the sample?
So that was before we put down the sod. We
Okay.
took samples back there. So this was probably a week or 2 before the sod arrived. We took those samples and sent them off.
I mean, Ray, are you seeing anything jump out here? I mean, it doesn't look. It's other than the pH. Like you can work with this. You got an opportunity here, right?
The other thing that's just kind of yelling at me is the magnesium levels and the potassium levels and the pH. That's just yelling at me right now because anymore, and you might as well be trying to grow the grass on a bag of Dolomite lime. I mean,
Is that possible,
that's
sir?
just, it's been done. It's been done, but then if somebody tries to do it without addressing it, let's just say that you start to break one of the Green Docs rules. And I have rules regarding growing grass. You are allowed to have one thing wrong that you're not going to fix, you can't fix, etc., and you just, mitigate all other factors. But if you have more than one thing wrong and you think you're going to have an easy time growing and maintaining grass when there's multiple things wrong, think again. And right now, what you got is you got like strike 1 and strike 2, which would be pH and magnesium. And then needing to abide by water restrictions is called strike 3, you're out.
That's what my grass said. That's funny.
I would be much less pessimistic and say that yes, your magnesium is high, yes, your soil pH is high, but in terms of your nutrient densities here, really the things that you would need to buy are so small that it would be effectively very cheap to maintain this yard, assuming you can get water on it. Because explain, how much rainfall do you get through the course of a year? Like, how dependent on your irrigation system are you?
Very, because I can count on one hand how many times it rained this summer. So,
okay.
But so here's the thing. In Utah, we have secondary water, which is owned privately, right? So it's one fee at the beginning of the year. I think I paid $250 for the whole year. And you can theoretically water as much as you want. So that's kind of nice, right? So if I wanted to run it 3 times a day, every day of the week, in theory, I could do that. But given this summer, as dry as it's been, one of the worst droughts on record, I believe, they restricted that. The city came in, told all the companies, like, we got to lock it down. So we just could not get water onto the turf. Nobody around here could. Turfs were dying left and right. On top of that, even before the heat crept in, and this is where the grubs came in, we had a Japanese beetle invasion. And when we moved into the house, Utah State University came around and sprayed specifically our city and North Salt Lake to treat for Japanese beetles in turf. At the time, that was just the front yard. They didn't touch the backyard because there was no grass back there. It was just dirt. They didn't worry about it. But what we didn't factor in was where the sod came from, which was about an hour and a half north of where I live, and bringing those grubs down here. And I kick myself for not treating right away because, stupid me, I did find one while I was rolling the sod out. And I said, it's one, not that big of a deal. Won't be a problem. They sprayed all around the area. We have traps all over the city. Shouldn't be a problem. It was a problem.
I gotta say,
apparently so.
I have never heard of a Japanese beetle situation so bad that someone is contracted to come spray an entire city. That's the first I've ever heard of that. Did they do that in Columbus?
No. I've seen them do it other parts of the Midwest, right?
What?
Where they're like insane populations. Yeah. There was just a tweet that go look at Ben McGraw from Penn State. He just tweeted something here earlier this evening about jet beetles in Pennsylvania and super high population. So again,
what?
Ray, an absolutely weird year for insects, right? we had
totally
cicadas
weird.
here. We had army worms, and then you got Castleberry up there. Guys just trying to make an honest living, put a little sod out there in the backyard for his kids, and the Japanese beetle tray
came up. But then there's precedent for that because in the 1950s and the 1960s, that is when most of the United States where there were Japanese beetles got sprayed in mass in the 1950s and the 1960s. And guess what they were doing it with?
DDT,
Chloridane, Aldrin, Dieldrin. Literally in the 1950s and the 1960s, they were aerially spraying entire states. But because they did that, that is when the environment became, I guess, heavily contaminated, and birds and fish started dying, and people like Rachel Carson then seized on it because you're right. Because for the adult Japanese beetles eating the leaves off of trees, they would aerially apply DDT from helicopters. Yeah, they would be flying DDT over forests for Japanese beetles, and of course, you just don't do that. I mean, now we know.
Imagine all the.
Were you about to say, kids, go run around and play in it? Is that what you were about to say?
No, I was about to say, hey, kids, go outside and look at the helicopter. It's flying around again. Like, that happened. That happened. It wasn't like now.
They're spraying mist on us too. It's so much fun. I love it.
I'm picturing Schwarzenegger from that movie saying, "Get to the chopper." Like, that's totally there. There's some kids that took a bath in that stuff. Oh,
here's what's interesting. So the extension office is the one who contracted local sprayers to go out and treat for these. And so I asked the guy when he stopped by, I'm like, when's the last time you've had to do this? And I think he said it was like the early 80s is when they had a problem here in the state of Utah. And they have tried to control it for years. And this is the first big outbreak that they've had since then. And I mean, everybody was just losing their minds. I mean, like I said, if you drive around the city right now, the traps are just hanging everywhere because they were that bad. So,
We're gonna have to read up on this.
That is bonkers.
This is gonna have to be. There's got to be some article somewhere for burn and return. That sounds like a good burn and return topic to dive into.
Yeah, I was just looking at Ben McGraw's Twitter here, and you're right, man. I mean, it's big up in PA too. That's crazy. Look at that damage.
Look at that guy.
Wow.
Look at that. Look at that. He's got the half. He's got the half cobra.
He's doing the half cobra right there, admiring his dirt stripes. Shout out, because that is
that's the crap. I'm getting fired look right there, right?
Yeah. That's the all right. So I haven't updated my resume since when? Oh, all right. I gotta get back and do that.
Oh man, yeah.
Sweetheart, get the boxes out. Start packing.
Yeah,
I knew I should have bought a Celebrim. I knew I should have bought a Celebrim.
So it's like why isn't that, how shall I say, a thing? Because as far as insect pest prevention, I'm all about that, because like on newly laid sod, especially if it's zoysia sod, I go a little ham on it as far as the pest prevention goes.
Well, so here's the one thing that I'm thinking though, right? Is for Castleberry, tell me this, right, and make sure my understanding is correct. He does this sod, right, and then gets very little rain and is not able to get a whole bunch of water on it, right? The active in acelepryn needs a ton of water. It is a highly insoluble molecule, right? So it can get up into the plant. I'm not sure even how successful that would have been, right? So maybe some imidacloprid over the top and trying to push it down in or something like that, but or
Actually,
just
I'll
straight
tell you
what
I do for soil insects is two of the most, I guess, soluble and mobile compounds, which would be number one, Dilox, plus clothianidin, or also known as Arena. And the reason why I elect for Arena is very mobile in the soil. So a little bit of water will bring that down into the root zone where it starts to work.
Makes sense.
I was
Makes sense. Go ahead,
Well,
So
Paul.
I have no idea what I was
Somebody.
going to say. Matt was about to chime in, so I was going to let him take the stage.
yeah. So, well, I was just going to say where you went through catastrophic loss here. So, what's your plan?
Well-
what are you doing? What does that look like?
I wouldn't say it was catastrophic loss. I would say half of it. Half of it probably is toast, right? So that's why, I mean, you can see in the picture there, especially right on that corner where the irrigation box there and directly across from it in that corner, and then just kind of along the edges is where a lot of it was toast. So the plan, we just scalped it down as low as I could get it, raked it like crazy, dethatched it like crazy, ripped stuff out, right? It just came up like butter, just ripped that out by hand. And then just took some topsoil, filled in those areas, and then we overseeded.
I mean, I think that's
so-
all you can do. And I gotta say this, and this is interesting. I would like to, if I could rotate these pictures. I'm going to try and do that while we're talking. I'm going to rotate these pictures. I think you have poor irrigation coverage.
Oh,
what are
absolutely.
your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The irrigation heads that I put in, I'm not happy with them at all. We chose not to redo those yet because we're probably going to be reducing the amount of turf that's back there. Because we're going to be putting in some trees and some landscaping beds, things of that nature. So at this point, I'm not really going to rip up heads, redo them, or anything like that until we start doing some serious landscaping back there. And then at that point, that's when I'll really worry about it. But having said that, I have gone in there and meticulously just changed coverage, adjust the nozzles, done everything I can possibly do with what I have in order to get a good coverage back there. So I'm getting head-to-head coverage. The nozzles that are on there, I'm not happy with them. The heads, again, I can't remember what the heads were. I had written it down somewhere, but it's okay. I wouldn't say that it's terrible because the soil is getting wet. The turf is getting water, but it could absolutely be way better, especially along the edges. I mean, I definitely could be doing better there. So,
For the sake of conversation too, I'm curious. I'm looking at your backyard here. I see your neighbors have trees up to the fence. What are you thinking tree-wise of going in with?
yeah. So, this is where I should probably have my wife step in if she's listening. Maybe she can text me and tell me the ones we picked out. Right in the corners there. So in your far left, in the back left, we're going to plant a, freak, you put me on the spot.
I'm
I can't remember.
make you uncomfortable.
You're doing a freaking fantastic job.
I need you to think
It's
of
a red, is it red point maple?
a maple of some
I think
sort?
it's a red point maple, I think is what we went with.
Okay.
Or we're going to go with. So there in that corner, and then over in the other corners, same thing. So two in those two corners, a little bit out from the fence, and do some stonework around that and along the edges on the far left there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to plant some trees in those corners, and I think it's red point maples that we're going with. So, dear, if you're listening, come correct me.
Are you doing some shrubbery too?
No, probably not.
Just throwing a couple trees
Not a
in,
fan.
adding some character,
Yeah.
some flavor.
Flavor, a little bit of color. That's about it. So,
I dig it.
yeah, no shrubs. I'm not a fan of shrubs. I'm not. I don't like them.
Hey, to each their own.
You know why I like the red maple? I mean, right?
I heard
Use your
nothing that
audio,
you
Ryan.
said, but I'm sure it was
Volume.
in.
Oh, I said, you know why I like the red maple?
Why is that?
Oh, Canada. Oh, you know.
Well, where you
home and
are
native
in
land.
Utah, I'm looking on a map right here. It's probably what, a 23-minute drive to the Canadian border, something like that. That's a joke. It was totally a joke.
That'll never happen.
Some
What? It's the only red that's acceptable on the flag. America.
I'm gonna get a shirt for you at GIE that is just like cut off from like about Texas on over up to the Ohio River and across to about Baltimore, and I'm just gonna put Matt's States of America because that's really that's all that matters, right? Right?
That's right.
If you ain't in the SEC, just get up on out of here, right? Like,
So hey,
golly.
funny story about that. Everyone here in Utah thinks the University of Utah is the only college football team in the States. And they for the life of them think, you talk to them like, oh, we had that perfect season where we beat Alabama. Long dramatic pause. I stare at them and go, what'd you do since? And
Came
that's
in
it.
third,
They
the
have nothing to
Pac-12
say.
league.
It's like,
The-
yeah.
So, hang on. Let's go through this here. Where are you from, Castleberry?
Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised. SEC country.
That's
Look,
right.
do you see it back there? Do you see it? Right
I
back there,
saw
right?
it back there, and it made me cringe a
UGA.
little bit because
You'll be all right.
Not,
it's not
I'm a
orange, I know.
red-blooded
Blah blah
Southerner.
blah. Go
Yeah.
Vols. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
But I was proud to see it back there. That's all I was gonna get at. And what's funny is that for someone from Georgia, you do not have a stereotypical Southern accent. And that's nice because you get to go represent the South and the rest of the world and not sound like a buffoon. And I'm
it come out every now and then when I need to. I keep it in back pocket when I need come out. Come on out every now and then. So someone mess with me, I'll jack you up, son. I get my Mountain Dew. We going town.
I swear, like the last two people I talked to from Georgia are Brian, who we had on the show way back when, see Brian go, and then Castleberry. And my Yankee ass, for the life of me, they sound nothing like anything I would expect from Georgia, right? Like,
nothing.
No, like I'm expecting a big old draw like this, and I got nothing. So
I don't know what happened.
Being misrepresented now. Yeah, I know. It's
well,
it's
Hotlanta is it's a
melting pot. It's a
metropolitan area. I mean, it's you're definitely exposed to the world in Atlanta.
I got the correction. I have to divulge from this conversation because my turf boss piped in and says red point maple and city sprite Zelkova.
Oh,
a Zelkova.
Okay.
Nice.
So a Zelkova is a hybrid from well, I may be wrong. I'm looking it up here. They're Japanese. I was thinking of the Chinese elms. I thought a Zelkova was a hybrid of a Chinese elm. I was wrong.
She also says Meshashino Zelkova, probably for the front, and then most likely an aspen.
And an aspen. Okay. All right. Yeah. You're doing some things there.
So yeah.
Not too bad.
That's why I've got her. Look, everybody always says she's behind the channel. She's the brains. She's the turf boss. And that's why. There you go. There's the prime example, right?
Hey,
no, I get it. I get it. Have you met my
We
wife?
all-
She kicks my ass once a week, whether I need it or not, and that's just the way I prefer to live.
Hey, the last time I was around your wife was at a conference, and she literally slapped me upside the head because I said, "I'm tired. I'm going to bed." Slaps you upside the head and said, "What?" Like, I'm sorry.
My wife does not appreciate people that bow out early. How about that?
I learned that lesson the hard way.
It gets her heart rate going, and she will smack the shit out of you. That's all I'm saying. Honey,
Oh
if you're
no!
listening-
Oh no! I mean, that's you know what that is? Remember what I warned you about, Matt?
Yeah, she's got samurai blood, man. I'm telling you, dude.
No, that's got nothing to do with it. I'm talking about the partying. Okay,
What?
because that
She
just-
is
you see-
Japanese.
yeah, and you see, I'm American, not Japanese. So for me, it's called, I don't care. By about 11 o'clock, I'm looking for my bed. That's it. Because I cannot stay. I cannot stay up late and drink. I mean, I turned in my Japanese card. I mean, if you're Asian, yes, you will be drinking at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That's the rule. If you're Asian, you drink till you're 2 or 3 in the morning. But I don't do that.
Ray drinks his Italian roast, and that's his anti-drug. So hey, everybody's got one, right? It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
I
see
didn't
the
hear.
summons in
I'm
the
sorry.
chat.
Oh
That's
boy,
how me-
here we go.
Paul remembers you.
I saw
smacking
that.
him upside the head. So he deserved it. I remember.
I
that
did.
night.
Yeah.
Don't tell them the
Till
rest
6
of what
a.m.
happened that night.
I'm not Castleberry. Somebody hit the
man.
bleep button before we go too far. We can't get too controversial.
Pineapple juice. Pineapple juice.
You have to blink twice when you say the safe word too. That's
Pineapple juice. All right, so I will say this. The seed I went with, all right?
Yeah, what did
I
you
went
go with?
with Wheatlands. I'm looking at it right now. It's Wheatlands Cache Valley Turf Blend. So it's a Yellowstone Kentucky bluegrass, a Majesty perennial ryegrass, Hampton Kentucky bluegrass, and an Oracle creeping red fescue. I'm not
No.
I'm not too thrilled with it. I wanted to go 100% all Kentucky blue. But again, like I said in my last video, we had a budget to work with. Turf culture, he and I talked. He pointed me in the direction of some good seed, some 365 SS, I believe. And I was going to go with that. But with everything else that we have to do, we had to stay within a certain number, certain budget. So that's what we went with. I went up to my local co-op and we snagged 20 pounds of that. And that's what we threw down. Thoughts on that mix? Everybody's been saying we're going to be all right. That's a good mix.
say it again.
Kentucky
it's
blue, perennial rye, and creeping
No.
red.
No, but he said okay. So yeah, specifically, go ahead and call words again.
It's a Yellowstone Kentucky bluegrass, Majesty perennial ryegrass, Hampton Kentucky bluegrass, and an Oracle creeping red fescue.
I think you're going to be fine.
70% Kentucky blue, 20% rye, 10% creeping red.
So the rye will be gone in like 3 years. The creeping red is going to give you some fast germination, good cover, and I don't know if the bluegrass will probably crowd it out. Hopefully, I mean, typically in those situations, the fescue is going to be a nurse grass, right, just to help things get established because you got a little bit slower germinators, especially in Hampton. The good news is I don't know much about Yellowstone, but Hampton is an absolute root monster, right? It doesn't look like the best up top in terms of like if you were going to compare it to against super elite varieties, right? But in a blend or a mixture, it's a solid performer, right? It generates a crap ton of roots, and I think you'll be pretty happy with it, especially given your climate where you're ability to pull water from the soil is at a premium, right? Because you don't have much in there and you can't water much. So roots are your friend. Like that is your number one. Just like anybody with cool season grass is you got to grow roots. And so at this time of year, if you're overseeding or if you're managing an existing lawn, grow those roots as best as you can, make it through the wintertime, grow them as much as you can in the springtime, and then hold on for dear life in the summertime.
Yeah,
Don't let everybody see
that's
you
what
water during the
separates the
water.
men from the boys, right?
No, disconnect your water meter. Tap into a fire hydrant down the street in the middle of the night. All the dirty tricks that Ray would do to make it happen if he had to, right?
I'll just run a hose over the fence to my neighbor back there that's got the McMansion and just run up their water bill.
Yeah.
Why not?
Interesting. So I looked up Hampton here, and its nickname is the Root Monster. Lord have mercy.
I remember the marketing there. Yeah, it really is. It's a solid grass. I spec it in just about every bluegrass mix that we do, right? Or bluegrass blend, just because of that particular characteristic. Like anytime you're making, a mixture or blend, right? You're selecting for high performance in one certain area with one variety over another. Like there's seldom going to be, there's very few, if you look at the NTEPs of top performers that score well in just about every category. Like those are unicorns. They almost don't exist. And so you have to sit there and say, okay, hey, let's pick one that's good with disease resistance. Let's just say, I'm just talking very general and arbitrarily here, but one that's good with disease resistance, one that's good with drought tolerance, one that's good with color, one that's good with spring green up and, whatever. And that's how you build, right, a good mix or a good blend. Now, when you get into commodity blends, like, your co-op mix is probably a little bit better than the commodity blend that you'd buy in a Scott's bag or a bag of Pennington. And if they listen to this and they get upset, hey, you know what you're doing. We know what you're doing. It's okay. Everybody has to have the Toyota Corolla of grasses, right? Like somebody's got to sell that. And it's you. Like, just be proud of that, right? So,
yeah.
On the flip side of that, you've got the high-end cultivars, and yeah, they're expensive, and they're only going to get more expensive. I just saw updated seed prices here that came out September 1st, and it's going to get real stupid, boys, real quick. So, Ray, your $5 a square foot sod is actually sounding more like a reality every single day here in the States. Who knows where this whole thing goes?
I think.
What did you pay for sod? What did you pay for sod? I was also curious about that when I saw your.
The sod.
I forgot to ask. Yeah, what'd you pay for that?
So at the time, it was $1,200 total. I think a little over $1,200 total. I think it was 6 or 7 pallets. So somebody do quick and dirty math on that.
So
I hate you.
$200 a pallet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate you.
40, yeah, 40.
You're welcome.
40 cents a square foot, around 40 cents a square foot, maybe a little more. Hey, here, Ray.
Here's here's even better. We didn't use all of it, and I sold it.
What?
So
well, you know what really burns me is that should you need to repair something like pest damage in it, you just go out and order 25 pounds of seed. I can't do that. I got to go back to the sod farm that the sod came from and get some more. And don't do that. I mean, wait till you've had to see $5 a square foot sod, Paul. I saw that. I know what that is because I had an ex-girlfriend that would do that gesture all the time, and I said, "Lord, you're mean."
Ray, did she help you find your sod stretcher?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. No, all right. So 40 cents a square foot. That's about the going rate, right? So you know what? That just like reminded me, like you sold that secondhand. There's probably like a business to be had there of like, the people that like pick up all the baked goods and like donate them to, the homeless shelter or the food, the food pantry or something like that. You could go around Castleberry, to like all the Home Depots that sell that overpriced sod. Just lay it out,
Yep.
water it for like 2 weeks, and let it bounce back, and then sell it for like full price. Like I think you could totally cottage industry right here. Castleberry in a truck going around to all the Home Depots and Lowe's and just picking up their
I gotta make
their
sure.
leftovers.
I gotta make sure to put my name on the side of the truck with that mailbox lettering, right?
Yes.
Just make it look super sketch.
So no lie, when I was in Memphis, there was a guy who used to run in one of the routes that I ran, and he had a white F-150. It was like a late 80s, 88 maybe, and his sign on the side was spray paint, just plain old lawn care. That's it.
Just lawn care.
Just plain old.
Not
lawn
even his
care.
name. Just lawn
Just
care.
plain old OLE lawn care. Just plain old lawn care. That was it. And he had his charter number too, because I mean he was like, it was his legit business. And he was one of those guys in Memphis. We had this fad of painting dormant Bermuda blue with that when you did your pre-emergent applications, and that all kind of started when everybody started using AquaCap because it was super yellow. That pendimethalin was super yellow, and it would stain the dormant grass yellow, and so you'd add blue dye to it, and it would have a little bit more of a green tinge to it, right? Well, it just kind of kept on, and you had that's just where like Beauty Lawn, they painted everything blue, and they had a special method of spraying to make sure it was nice and neat and with beautiful lines in it and stuff. So it's funny, just plain old lawn care guy got out there, painted it up,
paint it blue. Got to paint it blue.
But he did a good job. I mean, he really did for being just plain old lawn care. He did it right.
I think we can go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so your seeding, if nobody saw the last video, you did a significant amount of work in it. I assume you've gotten seed down so far. And
yes.
Are you still under water restrictions?
So that's an interesting question. So the reason I went through and broke my back to do all of that work is I found out from a neighbor literally the day before. She said the water's getting shut off today. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I still haven't even seeded my lawn. Like I've got this grass seed. I plan on doing all this stuff in the fall in like a month's time, and they're going to shut the water off like a month early. So I call up the irrigation company. I'm like, what's the scoop here? My neighbor says water's getting shut off tomorrow. The website says September 20th. What's the real scoop? And so they said that they're going to shut the water off on September 20th. And the day that we started this process, it was last Friday is when we started. So what was the date on that?
The 6th?
The 4th.
No.
The 3rd? No. Yeah, the 3rd.
This was uploaded the 8th.
Yeah, so we uploaded that at the beginning of the week. 3rd. We started on the 3rd. And here in the backyard, that was the next following Saturday on the 4th. And so my window is 16 days before they shut off the water. And so I said, all right, well, screw restrictions. We're going balls to the wall with this. I am going to set the sprinklers to go 3 times a day, every day until they shut it off to get that seed, keep it moist and get it to germinate. So we threw the seed out and I set the sprinklers to do exactly that 3 times a day to keep it moist, to up my chances of germination, to get it going. So, yeah.
So you're in a legit scramble for the end of the season.
I am, and I didn't want to be. I wanted, my plan was to wait towards the end of September because, again, we were talking in the pre-show, it got up to 95 degrees today. It was about 66 this morning and felt great, nice, cool weather. But then by noon, mid-afternoon, it's blazing hot outside. So
and this is
nothing's in my favor.
In your area, like when you go from being 95 during the day to all of a sudden like snows down, don't you?
Yeah.
There's like no in between. It's just you go straight from like hot as hell to snow season.
yeah, it's really annoying. People out here is like, hey, if you like the weather, wait 5 minutes, and it just makes me want to punch people in the teeth when they say it. But they're right. It happens. I mean, again, this morning, 66 degrees. After lunch, 95 degrees, and everything's roasting. So it's not favorable at all, right? But again, if I'm going to throw seed out, I'm going to water it. I have to. Like, there's no question about that. So if I've got a 16-day window to get this seed to try and germinate, I'm going to jump on it. I'm not going to waste my money and sit on the seed until spring. I'm going to try and get it out this fall and see what happens. So
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
I mean, was that the wrong move? I honestly sit there and question myself. Do I sit on it and wait till spring, or do I scramble and try to get it out now? And obviously I opted to scramble, right? Was it a bad move?
Well, maybe not. Maybe not, because what if next summer or next spring you're on water restriction right out of the gate again? Like, what if? Because drought is not a once a year thing. I mean, I tend to think of drought in terms of a decadal thing. So you might be right in getting your lawn back up right now so that at least you have grass come next spring.
And that's kind of my thought, and that's kind of my approach to it right now. Something is better than nothing, right? And whatever I can do right now, whatever I can control, I'm going to do that and see what the result of that's going to be. In this case, it was scrambling and breaking my back to get all the crap out of there so that I could get the seed down, get some seed to soil contact, water it like crazy, give it some food, and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You got some really favorable weather coming up, and if you can keep water to it for 16 days, like, you're going to have something. Like, Hampton will get up within 14 days for sure, like, for sure. I'm not sure about Yellowstone. Like, those are going to be the ones I'd be worried about, your bluegrass varieties.
Yeah.
Overall, though, if you can nurse it through there, and then I think you're going to have a shot, because the weather I'm seeing here, you start getting down into the 60s and 70s for highs. Like, it's going to be real favorable. So just to understand this, like, when you say it's off, like, there is no water at all that you can put on your lawn. Like, you can't even use your primary water to go out there and pay for it, like, per gallon to water the lawn. Like, nothing, correct?
I could, but there's another factor here. I'm cheap.
Money.
And the turf boss keeps a very tight budget. So once that secondary water goes off, it's probably game off. Now, having said that, fall rain is a thing out here. So that's creeping into the winter when all the snow and all that kind of crap is coming, right? So we could very possibly have some good fall rain come, next month, middle of next month, towards the end of October. So fingers crossed, pray to the lawn gods, right?
Yeah. Well, and even if it's, like, just say, like, a 2-3 week stretch to get you through there, I'm not advocating watering every day, multiple times a day, all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying, like, if you get into the danger zone and it's been 3, 4, 5 days of, double-digit winds and low humidity and lots of sun, like you might have in the fall, like, regardless of temperature, it might be time to just flip it on. Just, hey, give it 10 minutes. Just give it something to keep that crown hydrated and just keep it alive. Not vibrant, not growing, super awesome and everything like that. Just keep it alive and keep your investment there, right? So that's all I would say to that. And try to cost it out, right? Call the water company and just say, hey, if I use X number of CCF, like, what am I going to pay for that? Is there a price break if I go over a certain amount? That kind of thing. So, I'm all about the numbers, right? Like, I would want to know too, right? And I would look at it as, okay, what did I spend on the seed? What did I spend in time to get it all out? Heartache, everything like that. And is it worth $100 extra, maybe to throw down just a little bit of water a little bit of water to keep it alive after those water restrictions.
Yeah.
So just something to think about. I'm not saying like go ape with it and, tell the turf boss that I might have left the sprinklers on for like 60 minutes today. Oops. Like, not like that. But certainly that could happen,
I'll just
right?
tell
So
her.
if she's watching, you can be forgetful,
I'll
right,
just-
Paul? Like it happens.
I have no idea how this Dr. Pepper came into the house. Have no idea where it came from.
You know what? We sent that to you as a gift, right? We
There it
somehow,
is.
some way, it got in your possession. So, Jay Pink,
was
our
a
producer,
gift.
is very good at gifts. It was a gift. It was a gift.
I got to say, I think I like the comment that came through. The nectar of the gods. That's right. So, bags of ice, slow release. What they call it? Slow release, all natural cooling agent. Maybe we could just get tons of ice and just toss that over the yard. So,
what do you think the affiliate link's going to pay on that? Like maybe about 5 cents a pound. What are we going for here?
that's generous, I think.
Links in the description below.
Links in the description. Find it in the description below. Make sure to use the code Castle76 to get no free shipping.
Get no free, that's going to be expensive to ship. Yeah. Go to your local, go to your local gas station, go to the Wawa, and pick you up a little bit of ice.
Well,
that's right.
Let's talk fertility on this lawn, because if there's anywhere you can save some money, it's there. Because you really don't need to get all crazy.
No, and even before you get to that, let's throw this out there. In total,
oh boy,
maybe 4,000 square feet. Maybe. The front yard, just enough to round it up and calls it 1,000. Backyard, again, just enough, round it up, call it 3,000. So when I went and got my fertilizer from the co-op, I got a 50-pound bag of it. That's going to stretch me for like 10 years.
3 years. Yeah.
20 years.
At least.
30 years.
Micro.
Or a couple applications, but either or.
Is this co-op? Okay, so this question I was going to ask. Is this like a real deal co-op, or is this like a city folk co-op? Like what kind of selection do we have here? Do you feel good
Can you
about
buy
the
chickens
type
there?
of fertilizer type?
Yes.
Like a live chicken.
The fertilizer plant is literally across the road from it, where they manufacture it and bag it.
There we go.
This is my place.
Yeah.
I walk in, I'm like, all right, where is this manufactured? And the guy looked over the counter. He's like, right over there.
You see them tall ass silos over there? Them some bitches full of urea right now.
That's right. Yeah. And this dude was like, he's a good old boy.
I think they do.
No, I don't think so.
Out in the Badlands, maybe.
Silos, they got some bitch full
You
of
think?
urea.
I think they took that barge urea right across the Salt Lake and put it into the silo.
Sure.
That's what Matt would want. He'd really like to see that happen. All right, so you go to the co-op. So they got everything you need, right? What did you pick up? What was the bag of fertilizer?
So that's what I was going to find. And while I'm searching for that, Matt, I cut you off because I just don't like hearing you talk. So what were you going to say?
I was going to say, pineapple juice. Pineapple juice. Sorry, I had to restrict myself there. And just go get a bag of ammonium sulfate, and if your water gets turned back on, then you can start adding some citric acid to your program. But that's it. That's really the only thing you need.
Well, so I was going to go that route. In this co-op, I called them up and they said, well, we sell that in bulk. I'm like, all right, well, define bulk for me. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm going to have to buy a pallet of this crap and cart it home? Or what's the deal there? And he said, no, that just means you have to get your own bags, bring it up here, go across the street and bag it yourself. And we'll charge you per pound.
Like a man, like a real man.
Listen,
that doesn't sound all that bad, right?
No.
And so I told them,
sound bad.
I told them what I was wanting to do. It was like I wanted to get just these straight elements to throw down in this yard to correct some pH and to get some fertility going. He's like, man, by the time you do that, you're practically into our bags of fertilizer that we're just going to bag up over there ourselves anyway. And so what he sold me was what they call their summer one with iron. That's a 33-10-5. Okay, so that's
Sulfur.
yeah. So you've got your 30% nitrogen, your 3% phosphate, 10% potash, 5% sulfur. So there
it's
it
got a
is,
little
right there.
ammonium sulfate in it.
A little
It
bit.
does.
Derived from
but it's-
MAP, ammonium sulfate, urea.
I was gonna say
Yeah, I see
map
it
right
there.
there.
So I only
But
did one
it's-
application of that
Mhm.
after the
006,
trash
yeah.
grass was rolled down, because after that, that's when things just went to crap and the lawn started to die. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to burn this out with fert. So I didn't put anything else down after that and just stayed off the yard.
Look at that stuff. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that is co-op fert right there if I've ever seen it.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get that cheaper than ammonium sulfate, sure. But if you can go bag it yourself for cheaper, once you burn through it, there's no reason you should apply any phosphorus or potassium. Like, there's no reason you have to. How about that? It would all
Yeah.
be luxury, really, based on what you have here.
And you don't get it.
He was a good salesman. He sold me
No,
on his
he
bags.
is.
I mean, those 2 bags, it was $50 for those 2 bags.
And if you got
25
if you
more.
went and filled your own bag of ammonium sulfate, it'd probably been like $12 or $13.
Right.
Man, because there's something about me where if a lawn doesn't really need something, and based on your soil test, it doesn't need the phosphorus and potassium's kind of, at an acceptable level. Yeah, all you need is, I agree with Matt, you just need some ammonium sulfate, some elemental sulfur actually, and citric acid, because as I said, what is ringing my alarm the loudest is 7.7. That's the only thing that's ringing my alarm, and the reason why it is because high pH is where your KBG mixes get more things like summer patch and necrotic ring spot disease. Whereas if you get your pH down, down to earth, then those diseases are less prevalent. Although you may be fortunate in that because you're in such an arid place, your disease pressure is probably almost non-existent because you got dry air. You got dry air, so
I can't imagine that his disease pressure is very high at all, right?
Ray,
what
say
do you think
fungicide
about-
around here, and people just look at you like you're speaking a foreign language. Like, what is that?
This ain't Georgia no more.
No.
yeah.
Y'all
Well,
got fungus?
well, but then
Ray, what about the potassium thing? Because he's above 150.
Well-
It's not that big of a deal. But here's the other thing I'm thinking too is that without that rain, particularly in the summertime, like he's not going to flush much, if any of this, right? So I'm only an
he's
only
not
train.
going to.
Go ahead.
Well, he's not going to lose much if his irrigation keeps on getting restricted in the summer. He's not going to lose much because what I see in this soil is typical of arid areas where there's no leaching from rainfall. And when I say leaching from rainfall, that can even be leaching during the winter months where the grass is not growing and you have like a lot of rain just washing all the excess out. Whereas here, where you got nothing, as far as rain goes, whatever you got in the soil is not going to move or go away unless you collect clippings. And you're able to push water and push nitrogen to keep on forcing uptake of the other elements, and you keep on taking it away as grass clippings. So you're not about to lose much in nutrients unless pushing nitrogen, pushing water, and collecting grass clippings is your actual turf care program.
Yeah, I just think it can be incredibly simple, Castleberry, because you're a simple guy, and I think there's nothing wrong with even if you sacrifice the pH for now, right, and just live with it, because it's for me, it's not that big of a deal breaker. Like, you can work with it, you can live with it, and certainly there's going to be some repercussions and some potential challenges that come from not doing much at all to it. But if you're using acidifying fertilizers, you're going to see a little bit of an improvement in performance, right? So for me, roll with the N only, right? If you can do some citric acid, some sulfur, right, when rainfall is either plentiful or you have access to irrigation, go for it, right? But I'd run that program and just see what you get, right? Because you have ample phosphorus in the soil, right? There's no need to go all in on that. And I forgot to ask, or I'm not sure if it was mentioned before, but you do or do not collect clippings when you mow?
I do.
You do. Okay. So again, and we're not gonna. Hey, listen. He's got to even probably hose these kids off before they even get the opportunity to come inside to take a bath, right? I've got kids that play in the backyard. I know it's like Castleberry. You cut the grass, you don't bag. They go, they roll around in it, and they come back in covered in grass clippings, and you got to stand out there like they're Tommy Boy at the gas station and hose it down, right? Hey, Chucko,
ain't nobody got time for that.
No.
Ain't nobody got time for that crap. So
yeah,
Ray, you'll be okay. I collect clippings.
You
Okay,
bag it,
and
you get a little pee down later on, right? That's just the cost of doing business, Ray. Right?
Yeah, you get the P down and you get the K down because that's where you're at, and that's based on a conversation that I had with somebody that called me up this morning to ask me, why is my lawn declining? And this person described constantly collecting clippings and yet not putting back the P and the K and the micronutrients. And I said, there's your sign. There's your sign, because in another time, I never used to mow lawns. I never mowed. So here's what I saw out of it. Because the people that do mow here pick up every single last freaking grass clipping, I noticed that my lawns would start to look peaked by day 35 or 40 every month. So that told me the level of nutrient removal.
And nutrient removal's one of those things, right, that you can always account for it for fertility. I've got to say, though, at your soil test levels, you've got a lot of luxury there, because you have ample, so you can get away with it realistically for years before, at least 2 years before you even really need to worry about trying to replace what you're removing from potassium, and even more years from phosphorus. So no real major, like, oh Lord, you're screwed if you do that kind of sort of thing. It would just save you money in the long run by recycling those clippings, because you could just stay for a significant period of time, multiple 4 years maybe, without needing to apply any more K. So kind of an interesting.
Yeah. So did I just hear you say, Ray, calm down? Is that the translation?
Let me translate it for let me translate it for Ray. The K thing aside, the thing with phosphorus, right, and the thing with kids and the bagging and all that stuff. Ray, as simple as I can put it, because I've got 2 kids and I face the same thing and I do the same thing. I bag it, right? Is if you don't bag it and you put the P in the V, you're going to have to drop some P to take care of it later on. Like, that's just the way it goes, So
Fair
So
enough.
those
Listen, and
Fair
the
enough.
thing
You'll get it
about this
later.
too is that why there's three of us on here every week as a guarantee is that you're going to get three totally different perspectives on how to manage things because of our experiences, our education. It influences the way we do everything. And listen, there's 101 ways to grow grass. There's 101 ways. There's 1,001 ways to grow grass and do so effectively. Everybody has their own spin on it. Everybody has their own take on it, as long as you have some foundation, some foundational approaches to it all, right? So how you end up getting there, you may take a windy road, you may take a straight road, you may take a road with lots of hills, you may take a road where you go downhill the whole way. But you're all ending up at the same point. And Ryan has been in sports turf, for the bulk of his career. So he thinks about things totally different than the way I do, where I come from, what I call volume lawn care, right? Where it's how can I get it done as fast as possible, as cheap as possible, has been my approach the entire time, because
While getting cussed
my
at.
budget, while being called the lawn boy and secretly wishing just horrific things on the people that tell you that, and yourself at the same time. It's an interesting dichotomy to be at a person's property and hate yourself as much as you hate your customer. It's an odd thing, but it happens a lot, oddly. I digress. So when you're trying to achieve, a golf course type aesthetic, and you've only got 6 applications to do it in, and you've got a budget of $1.60 per 1,000 square feet to get it done, or $1.40 per 1,000 square feet to get it done, you're trying to run all these different scenarios in your head, like, what can I skip on this time? What can I not skip on this time? And what's great is when you have data like you've got here with this soil test, they're like, I can skip on a whole hell of a lot, as a matter of fact, and I'm going as cheap as possible. Bring on the 400 SGN ammonium sulfate, and I'm going to go light this bad boy up. So,
well, hey, to your point, look, if you just get, I think a lot of back to basics needs to happen. Okay. And that's kind of the whole point about what I'm trying to do with my stupid little YouTube channel, is to go back to basics, remove yourself from everything that's thrown at you on the tubes, on the grams, and all that kind of stuff, and just take a breather and just go out there, cut the grass, get a soil test, try to understand it the best you can, and work with a budget. And don't go out there and dump thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of products out there to fix every little scenario that you're going to have. Because I think it's insane to do that. And so taking a slower, smaller approach to it, especially with a yard like mine that's as small as it is, I think is going to be a better approach in the long run.
I agree with that, and I will say this: like, I've watched a lot of your content this year, especially, and the thing that I appreciate the most is not only what you said, simple in terms of what you're trying to do. So I guess here the two things that I appreciate the most. Number one is, what is the simplest path to get to my desired objective, right? Instead of saying, how many different things can I do to maybe hit the bullseye and not have any clue which one of the things that I did actually helped me achieve my objective? Number one. Number two, your level of expectation setting, I think, is completely on point. Knowing that, hey, I'm an amateur. I'm going to do the best I can with the best information I have. And you know what? It might not always look perfect. And guess what? That's okay. It's completely okay. Even us, Ray, Matt, me, we screw stuff up constantly, right?
Stuff happens. Stuff happens.
Matt set a 2-alarm fire on his own property in the effort to make his lawn better, as cheap as he possibly could. And God bless him for it. But
because I was too lazy to scalp it, I was like, I'm just going to burn all the grass off and burn down everything in its path. That's another one of those situations where you hate yourself as much as the shed all at the same time. Like, it's an empty shed. Why is it even on the property? It came with the house. I hated it anyway. And then I'm trying to put it out with a 0G stretch hose. There's nothing more humiliating than being stiff-armed by a real man, a fireman, who's out here, has responsibilities of saving lives, and you got Tweedledick Matt over here with a limp garden hose spritzing just the overspray of water onto this raging fire that looks like a damn SpaceX launch in the backyard.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you. You know who you made happy through all this, right? There's only one group that made out, and that was the lawyers that handle Super G hose, because they saw and heard your story probably somewhere because it got brought to their attention, and they're like, God bless it. We got to go back here and rewrite the entire safety manual, right? So now in big bold print, it says on the box, does not put out structure fires. The lawyers, they get paid $400 an hour to be like, all right, how should we write this? Like, don't be an idiot. Doesn't put out structure fires. No, we can't do that. Don't light your yard on fire and try to put this out along with any other structures. Like, they just settled on does not put out structure fire. So you probably made them I'm going to say several $100,000 in legal fees just off of that. So kudos to you, sir, in supporting the legal profession.
Sounds like they owe him some free hoses and an affiliate link.
Oh yeah, definitely some free hoses
down below.
Right now, right in this vicinity, right down here. Yeah, that's the other thing too. I just want to touch on this real quick while I'm thinking about it. Is that so there really are, like, I would say 3 different kinds of lawn YouTubers, right? There are the people that are expressly there to sell product, and that's it. That's all they do. That's their job. And then you have people that are kind of doing more of a tutorial, kind of like a Ryan Orr, who's trying to show you how, right? Or a little bit more about why, that kind of stuff, right? And then the last is like the Connor Wards of the world, who are just like, this is what I do. I don't care if you like it. I don't care if you dislike it. I don't care if you take my advice at all. I just videotape what I do, and it's basically just like a vlog almost, to a certain extent. And I feel like out of anybody, right, like really anybody in this space, like, you have lived the life of all 3 of those, either together or separately at one point. And I think it's a unique perspective. I really do. And I'm curious, like, when you hear it put that way, like, does it evoke any strong emotion? I don't mean like I'm not asking you to talk bad about anybody here or anything like that. That's not at all. I'm just saying, like, if you could be, the ruler of the lawn YouTube community for like a year, like, are there any changes you would make having sat in all those seats, right? Or edicts that you would issue,
or advice you would give?
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah. That's most certainly a can of worms for sure. A lot of emotions. I'm feeling triggered right now, and I might have to go to a safe space. So
crawl. Wait, here's all right. Crawl in the cooler with the Dr. Pepper. That's the safest place you can be right now.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna go there,
let's crack a fresh one. Ooh,
there it is.
It feels so good. It feels so good.
Let me back up and say, I never envisioned myself being in the lawn tuber space. When I started with Do My Own back in the day, I was hired simply to make their tutorial videos on all the SKUs that they carried. So we would touch base with the manufacturer and say, all right, we've got Taurus SC, here's the label. Let's get a voiceover, break down how to use it, simple ratios, that kind of a thing. And then interestingly, they wanted to start to grow their lawn and garden side of things. And it was at that time that a coworker that was on the marketing team with me said, well, I found this guy called the Lawn Care Nut on YouTube. We should reach out to him and have him create videos for us. And I was like, hold on a freaking minute. Like, that is my full-time job, is to create videos for our YouTube channel and our website. And you want to pay somebody else to come in and create lawn content for it. We're not doing that. Instead, why not take an idiot like me who knows nothing about lawn care and go out into the yard and try to figure this out? And luckily, I work for a distributor that has the products and the catalog to help with the process. Right. So the premise wasn't always, I've always tried to make it is, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me figure it out. show you what I'm doing while I'm doing it. And if there's something I can teach you along the way, then great, let's do that. But if not, it is what it is. Let's just see what happens, right? So that actually resonated really well with the Do My Own channel. And we it skyrocketed. I mean, it went bananas, right? And that was right around the time that Alan Hain and Ryan Knorr, Matt, you were on the scene already. Everybody started to grow, and this lawn tube thing started to become a thing, right? Where it went south is the product side of it, the corporation side of it. Okay. Wanting to push product, sell product, and that kind of a thing. It moved away from wanting to help and educate people and into the wanting to make a dollar category. Now, let me say on top of that, Do My Own was one of the very best jobs I've ever had. I absolutely loved my time working for them. They were amazing people. Michael and Philip Gosling, the brothers that own the company, treated me and my family extremely well. But where I had to take a step out was we started to move away from that relatable, figuring out how to do lawn care and teaching it to the average homeowner, and more into the space of what we see now, pushing product and selling it. And I'm not on board with that. I mean, I get where some people make a living out of doing it, and I'm okay with it. You want to go out there and you make a living selling these products on YouTube, whatever. I applaud you for it. I tip my hat to you. But that wasn't me. I couldn't go out there and push a product that may or may not work for somebody and say we made a buck at the end of the day. And so that's when I went to Greene County Fertilizer. As everybody knows, I ran the Next DIY lawn channel there. And it was a similar situation there where it was, we weren't educating people. We got to push product. We got to sell product. And I'm not on board with that. So back to your original question, again, the whole premise has always been, I'm trying to learn how to do this. I've got a knack for recording it. I have a passion for creating content. Let me point the camera at myself, making mistakes left and right. And if somebody can gain some insight from that, I learned something along the way. Awesome. I think we all win at the end of the day. So I don't know. Was that a good answer?
No, like
What
that
did I
was
miss?
a great answer. And,
No,
and
That's great.
A couple things I want to just chime in and say. I don't know if I would agree that everything went south. I would say everything has gone a little sideways. Um,
Fair.
and so just to be not overly pessimistic about it, try and give a little balance to it. And the only other thing I would say too is that there's nothing inherently wrong with selling a product. I fully believe. I think that's capitalism at its finest.
Yeah.
However, it's when, say for instance, you have dollar spot breakout and you look at the list of SKUs you get paid on to sell, and the only fungicide you have for this type of, the only fungicide you have that you get a commission on is azoxystrobin, and azoxystrobin isn't effective to control that dollar spot, but you go ahead and do it anyway because that's the SKU you have that you get your commission on. That's where we get into a whole world of tomfoolery that is unacceptable, right?
Yeah.
And or if you've got Pythium and you're like, golly, we gotta go get some azoxystrobin on this Pythium because it ain't gonna fix it, but it might stop it. It might do something. I don't know, but it's the best we got because I'm at least gonna get a commission on it, right? That's where it gets squirrely. And the problem is that, and I've said it before and I've harped on it a lot, is that the people who end up getting punished for that type of behavior are the guys that have to rely on those tools to accomplish things, have to get results and provide a service and compete against other people that also provide a service. And you get into this rat hole of a product being taken away. It ends up losing efficacy, where at one point it was great because of overuse or misuse or all of the above, and then everybody ends up losing. everybody
Yeah.
ends up losing in the long run for it, when the transparent thing to do was to make the recommendation of, well, mefenoxam would work for Pythium and would work well. Let's head on over to the NC State turf files and look at the most effective fungicides for dollar supply and see that zoxystrobin is not on that list, and not make that recommendation. So that's where things get sideways. And I feel like that's kind of the path we're as the lawn care community is navigating right now. That's the kind of path that everybody's trying to figure out. Everybody wants to get rich. Everybody wants clout or fame online. Everybody gets their little buzz from producing content, right? And you're chasing the dragon constantly, and so a lot of times it can become blinders to what I would consider. How do I say this without sounding like a complete and total keeper of the gates, but without you put on blinders for at the sacrifice of everything else around you for the sheer purpose of generating an additional dollar or an additional subscriber or an additional view or click or whatever, regardless of what the overall impact is, right?
I believe in the real world we call that selling out.
Yeah. That's probably a good one.
Well,
that's probably a good one.
Yeah. And so that was my line, right? That's where it was moving out of being genuine and into that selling out phase of things. And to Matt's point, I got to know a lot of pros while I was working at Do My Own in Greene County Fertilizer. And a lot of these guys, to Matt's point, they depend on these things to be readily available. And when you've got homeowners dipping their hands into pro chemicals and misusing them and being morons, dumping more on they need to, that causes a problem industry wide. And so where I started to kind of say, like, I can't do this anymore is when someone's telling me, hey, throw down Roundup, but don't tell anybody about it so that we can make this other SKU look good. So
wow.
I can't be a part of that. And my moral compass goes off. And that's why it took us a year off. And I got off social media and I backed out because it was just kind of getting into that realm of selling out just to make a dollar and just kind of going sideways, as Matt said it.
I want to ask a question too. Is you pump out a lot of content, and this was your job, and now it's just sort of like a hobby and a job. I'm not sure where it's at for you now, but like you seem like one of the more humble guys doing it. How do you stay humble? I'm just curious of like what grounds you to be like, hey, you know what? It looks like it looks, and I'm okay with that. Whereas, there's some people that legitimately get like crushing anxiety because if there's one thing wrong with their lawn and they push out content, they're just like, they can't do it. And it's like, guys, like, we live in the real world. Grass dies all the time. Like all the time. Ask Matt, right?
Yeah.
Ask Ray.
Well,
for starters,
listen here, damn it. You're freaking me out, guy. You're freaking me out.
Oh, Ray's thinking about El Toro Zoysia right now and just getting the shakes. Drink another. He needs another Italian roast to come up.
Well, but
so
seriously,
Go ahead, Ray.
Seriously, that is what I think is so refreshing about your channel and you, in that you have that moral compass, in that you're not associated with less than, how shall I say, ethical people. Because, as you know, we're very fond of flashing up this meme that we refer to as BMS. Is
that a syndrome?
And no.
I think it might be, Ray. I think at some point, yeah. I think I think once the new DSM-6 comes out for psychiatry, you'll probably see BMS in there, right? It'll be on every psychiatrist desk.
Yeah.
So,
let me step in real quick
ahead.
and make a note here. There are very extremely ethical people that still work at Do My Own and Greene County Fertilizer that I am friends with.
Sure.
And
Sure.
they have the moral compass. They're in it for good reasons, and they legitimately steer people in the right direction. I remember being in the room with one of the salespeople, and they're like, you shouldn't buy anything from us. You can go down the street and get it for half the price. And I was just floored by that. I was just like, oh my gosh, you're basically telling someone not to do business with us. It just really struck me, right? So I just wanted to throw that out there. There are still people out there at those companies that very much have good intentions and are trying to do the right thing. So to answer your question, the whole, one, I have a turf boss and she's amazing. She definitely keeps me in check all the time. And two, like you said earlier at the beginning of all this, I've sat in all those seats and I've seen it from all sides. I've been on the other side of the screen in the room where the conversations have happened. And I've seen it all, and I just don't want to be a part of that, right? Like, if my lawn's going to look like crap, great. I really don't care. And I'm really hoping people are going to see that and they're going to say, oh my gosh, you know what? Actually, it kind of is a good thing that I'm not going nuts with this. Well, one of the greatest comments my favorite comments I got on my recent video, this guy said, man, I'm so glad you said something about having a tight budget, because I think a lot of people out there do, and they're just afraid to admit it because of everything they see on YouTube and Instagram. And it's this constant comparing and trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? And that's the other part of it. I got off social media. When I left Greene County Fertilizer and I moved to Utah, I deleted my Facebook account. I deleted my Instagram account. And I removed myself for an entire year. I just kind of went off the radar. And it was one of the greatest things that I've ever done. And I will not get back on those platforms. So I guess that's the answer to the question, is just not comparing myself to other people's lawns and trying to keep up with everybody that's out there.
That takes a tremendous amount of self-discipline, right? And also self-respect too, to not like that I need to be validated by what my lawn looks like. Or, I mean, that's in the pro world, and Matt and Ray could tell you the same thing is, like when you start comparing, you're going to lose. Like in your mind, you're going to talk to yourself. You're never going to be like, the self-talk of sometimes, oh, this, my turf's better than this guy's or this person's or whatever. It usually devolves 95% of the time into, man, everything I've got sucks. It's, there's weeds everywhere. There's this, there's that. It's like you're just giving yourself all the ammunition to just shoot yourself in the foot over and over and over again. It's awful.
Or shoot yourself in the head, because, speaking to that, Ryan.
Here we go. Strap in, boys.
No.
Are we going sideways now?
No.
We're going south.
We're
going 6 feet south.
No, we're not. We're going neither way. But then what I can tell you is I level with people. I tell people you'll have a very green lawn. Your lawn won't have weeds, but do not compare yourself to the neighbors. And do you know why I tell them don't compare yourself to the neighbors?
Why, Ray?
Because part of my warning is that you will also have one of the quote-unquote messiest lawns on the street.
Yeah. And it's true, and I think that's the unintended consequences, and I think that's, to Castleberry's point, there's a lot of that that's undersold in terms of, yeah, you can keep up, you can buy all these products and everything else, but what are the unintended consequences? What are the things that you're not hearing about? Hey, you do this, you do X with Y, and you thought you were going to get Z result, but suddenly you end up on AA, and holy crap, like we got a major problem here because you're not supposed to mix those two things, right? And to
Well,
me,
and also again, going back to
ahead.
Matt's point, is you
Yeah.
start to get people going off label on these products.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
boy.
it's just, it causes so many. I mean, I had a neighbor once is like, well, if I do more, I mean, nobody's going to find out and tell on me, right? It's like, ethically, just follow the label. I mean, it's the law. Literally, we said that at Do My Own all the time. Label is law because it is, right? So
Yeah,
it
I
just,
think.
and the part
Go
that
ahead,
I
Matt.
where the one is good, two is better type thing is what people don't understand is that yes, you can over apply. No, nobody's going to find out. No, you're not going to get any better result. Yes, you're going to create more problems than you initially started with, and it's as simple as that. And
yeah,
where but then all of a sudden it becomes like, well, I can get this product in ag and then I can use it over here and I can do a little
Yeah.
MSMA over here and then
yeah.
I'm gonna man, that damn shit works so damn good. I'm gonna do a TikTok video on it and show everybody that the only thing missing was that they just need to do a little squirt and they're gonna kill every some bitch and weed they ever had in their yard and it comes back all green every time, 100% of the time. And then that's where it gets silly, right? And
Yeah.
then that's where it makes. The problem is that people see that and they're like, oh well, shit, Joe Blow did it, I can do it too, and who's going to stop me? And listen, you're not going to meet anybody that's more fond of individual freedoms than I am. I 100% think everybody should be able to do with what they need to on their property. But here's the thing: is that when it starts to affect me being able to feed my family, I lose my shit. I lose my
Yeah.
shit. And that's that one area of territorialism that I have, and it's extreme, and it's probably for the best. But it's just, I hate to be a negative Nancy about it. I really do, because there's lots of people in the lawn care community that produce great content, and they're genuinely funny to watch. I saw Jason G over in the chat. I love Jason G. It's funny. Somebody was
Good dude.
talking about him the other day, and and I was like, Jason G's the kind of guy, he didn't give a shit. He just wants to go out and have fun in his yard. Like that's 100% what he does. That's how the content comes across. That's why it's easy to watch. That's why it's fun to watch. And by the way, you look great, Jason. I don't know what you've been doing, but you clearly have been working your ass off and you look awesome. And so I don't want to paint the picture that if you're a homeowner and you're out there making YouTube videos, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You need to get your ass corrected. And that's not true. I don't think that at all.
No.
There's lots of people out there that are legitimately having fun, learning on their own personal journey, and I think that's great for people. But at the same time, there's people that will come in and dangle a carrot of fame or fortune in front of them, and then it will push people outside of their comfort zone. And I don't even fault the people for that. I mean, listen, if somebody came to you and is dangling, money and fame and power in front of you, I mean, any normal person is going to look at that and weigh their options and be like, okay, let's check this out. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's see what this looks like. And sometimes it's obvious where it's going. Other times it's not so obvious, and it just seems like it may be a good idea. Or you'll be talked to in such a way that it makes it feel like you have an ability. They see something inside of you, right? And they've inspired confidence in you that you didn't otherwise have, and that confidence may be good, and that may expel into other areas of your life, with your relationship with your home or your kids or work. And you're getting this positive reinforcement here, and lo and behold, you're not even aware of the shit that's coming out of your mouth, kind of sort of deal, right? So anyway,
And to add to that, we saw this at Do My Own. There were products and SKUs that people were posting about and talking about that they were not using correctly, and the SKU gets pulled back and it gets taken off the shelf and it's not available anymore. So it has effects. You got to be careful with it. And Do My Own's defense, I applaud them for wanting to always go by the manufacturer's recommendations and always making sure those T's were crossed and those I's were dotted whenever we were making content. Because if we even misspoke in the slightest, videos getting taken down, wagons are getting circled, and we're talking about how we can fix this. So I applaud them for always trying to do the right thing and make sure that homeowners, when they get these products, they're using them safely and effectively. But it was the thing. We would see people misusing the product. A manufacturer would get wind of that. Next thing you know, the SKU is getting taken away from us and sales are getting affected. And that affects people's livelihoods, right? I mean, you've got customer service representatives, you've got warehouse guys that are packing these shipments. I mean, it's a domino effect. So that's why I have that line of I'm not going to cross it just to make a buck. I mean, and I think that's where we need to get back to.
Yeah. And what Matt said, if you're a capitalist and you want to sell, you just at least have a little bit of a conscience, right? Like overall.
Yeah.
But I think there's an awesome content opportunity here. Matt, I know you've probably watched The Price is Right. Ray, I know that for sure that you have. Yeah, you remember that like little yodeling game where the little high sock dude like goes up the hill the further you are away from the price. I want to do that. I want Jay Pink to set up the yodeling game, and next year we'll do a series of short videos. I want to see how close we can get the yodeler to your budget without having him fall off the cliff, right? By just doing the simplest shit we can possibly do to manage your lawn. And we just check in like once a month for like a 5-minute video, a 2-minute video, whatever it is, and we yodel on up and see if we can do it. So you talk to the turf boss, right? You set the budget, and we can do this. We can do like a little 3 or 4 or 5 part series, and I bet you we can keep the yodeler from falling off the cliff. Challenge accepted.
Accepted. She's probably watching right now, getting the kids in bed. So she's probably going, "Oh my gosh, what
these guys?"
All right, we'll freaking take the pen back to the paper and talk about this. So
she's redlining the budget. She's like, "Well, we're going to see how good these guys are." It was 300 before. It's now 150.
Hey. If that happens, hey, Dr. Pepper's all the way around.
Hey,
yeah. Well, you know what? That is something that I'm super familiar with, because the reality is, when I told you $5 a square foot sod, you know what the corollary of that is? You do not have very much money to just dick around with stuff that doesn't work or is unnecessary. That's my reality.
In Ray's world, no FAFO.
Yeah, no FAFO, exactly.
Or FOMO.
No, there's no missing out, but you might find out if you did the first part. Yeah.
Hey, so this is being pushed. Everybody's saying I should do something. I don't know if it's stupid or insane, but renovate the yard to Bermuda.
Okay.
Not in Utah. Not in Utah.
Buried under snow for a long period of time, right?
And you get too cold at night. And you get too cold at night, even in the summer. So not happening.
No. Listen.
Hey, look. Okay. Well, hold on. They even said you can't real mow. They said you can't real mow turf type tall fescue, but we did it and it survived. It's fine. So
you can you can rotary mow Bermuda grass at 1 inch and be fine. Ray will literally like nails on a chalkboard are screaming in Ray's ear right now, but you can do it, right? Oh, my camera just died. Now listen, Ray, you can do this. I've seen it done. Okay. Now here's what.
Now we just lost his audio feed.
Oh, there he goes.
There we go. This is like the guy. Yeah, I'm back for a second on my crappy camera. This is like the guy that drives the torch red Corvette, right, with the convertible top, and he's driving around town, right? And his Corvette looks awesome, right? Now, any car enthusiast would look at him and say, "Dude, you got an automatic Corvette with a convertible top. Like, you are the biggest pansy in the world." But you know what? When he rolls down the street on Friday night around all the ladies, Ray, all they see is a red Corvette, right? So 1 inch Bermuda is 1 inch Bermuda, dog. That's all I'm saying. You can do it. All right. Hell yeah, that's right. See, that was well timed, Lush.
God, that could not have been
right
more perfect.
Point. Yes. Lush Lawn's looking out for me. Thank you, Aaron. So I want to know about your wintertime temperatures and snowfall. So take me through like December, January, February. How much snow is on the ground for how long, and how cold does it get?
It, if we get snow around Halloween, you know it's going to be a tough winter. It's
Okay.
just going to be lots of lake effect snow, anywhere
Mhm.
between 4, 6, 10 inches of snow. Some places. But on the flip side of that, it could be a short winter like what we had this past winter, where I can count maybe 2 good snowstorms where it dumped maybe 2, 3 inches of snow in our area, and then in a couple of days' time, it was melted and gone. So it's hard to predict. It's
Big
hard to
give and
say.
take.
I know, yeah, it's hard to like again today, the weather being crazy. It's
Yeah.
hard to say. I know from December to February, I'm gonna have just massive amounts of snow, and I'm just gonna have to sit inside with my feet up by the fire and wait for it to melt. Um,
If only.
yeah, so yeah, right. So it's hard to predict. I can't really say one way or the other, but we get snow.
Is
Okay.
it?
And
So
But
then
there
you're
you
not
go.
like Connor, where you get just dumped on and dumped on and
We
dumped on, and once it falls, it doesn't melt until the spring.
So I'm 2 hours away from Connor. He's at a little bit higher elevation than I am. Um, so we can get that. I'm closer to the Great Salt Lake, so we can get that lake effect snow that just can dump a ton on us. Um, so we can get that, but it's
Okay.
not very often.
Snow
He gets
doesn't
it way
freak me
more than
out.
we do.
So then tell me about temperatures, cold temperatures. You're on exposed ground, you get a cold night. Like, how often is it dipping down into the single digits at night?
Not very often. It happens, but it's not, every single night throughout the winter.
So let's just say, like, in those 90 days from December 1 to, February 28, roughly, it's not 90, but bear with me, is how many single digit nights do you think you see in that stretch in an average year? 10, 20, 30?
Maybe somewhere between 10 and 20 is a good safe bet.
I think you can grow a Bermuda dog. That's me. I think you can go up there and do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hearing anything. If you have a year where you do have extended snow cover that doesn't melt, I'd say, yeah, you're probably toast. If it happens within the first 2 years of establishment.
Dude, I'm telling you, we had 11 days, sub 5 degrees, uncovered on less than year old Tahoma. No winter kill, none.
That's 11 days, but you didn't have 90 days or 80 days of snow cover.
Snow cover is fine. Snow cover is fine. When we're uncovered, that's when I get nervous. The only thing on snow cover that I would get nervous about is if we have ice. If we have melt, refreeze, then more snow, because
Yeah.
then we can get anoxia, right? Can't get
Yeah.
enough oxygen down to the plant, and then we have major issues. So if that situation is prevalent, which I doubt it is, it's probably just cold, right? Like here in Ohio, we can be like up in the 40s, right? We get a little bit of rain, flash freeze, then there's snow on top of it, and it's an absolute shit show. Who knows what's going to happen with the turf? Like, you get that in February, and you have your fingers crossed that whatever comes out is not dead. So, all that being said, hey,
You're saying throw down and go for it.
You don't have ice storms there like we do in the South. You know what I'm
No.
talking about. You've experienced the
Absolutely.
ice storm. The ice storms
Absolutely.
cause winter kill every time. If you don't have ice storms, I'm with DeMay here. You got to try it.
I'm going to tell you this real quick too. Is I think it was
Arden
Iron
15, seed
Oh,
Arden
God,
15.
stop,
I got a link in the
stop.
description.
Stop. Somebody, okay, listen. If you think that he's being serious right now, he's being 1,000% facetious. Please, if you're
joking.
watching this and if you just picked up on this, please don't take anything he said seriously. Right?
That was inside
It's opposite day.
baseball.
It's opposite day. Just forget about it. Forget about it. Okay.
Take it with a
Anyhow.
grain of Arden 15 seed.
Exactly.
You people.
Exactly.
You people.
What you do
Usually it's
is
me.
you sod Tiff Grand and then you seed Arden 15 into it every summer. You overseed with
Which
it.
one of those is common Bermuda?
Tiff Grand.
I feel like Ray right now. I'm getting triggered. Okay. There's a guy in Castleberry. I'll send you the link on the Discord. But there is a gentleman in Colorado that last year got a pallet of iron cutters. So the two most cold-tolerant vegetative types of Bermuda grass right now are iron cutter and Tahoma 31. Okay, either one of them I think would work fine. Hell yeah, Sean Smith. Either one of them work fine. But this guy he's just south of Denver, so kind of halfway in between. What is that? Denver and Colorado Springs, right? And tough, dry, open winter out there. Came back just fine, no problems, right? So it would be fun to try, and from a management standpoint too, right? Like, the only thing I worry about there is just the water, right? Matt, what do you think about that? Like, if you were on water restrictions and you had a hybrid Bermuda in a dry climate, like, what you tell me, because I don't have a dry climate with those. So
I could care less because I know I can grow it in the next growing season. It doesn't matter. Like,
what?
I lose 80% of it. All I need is a few 1x1 patches, and I can regrow the sumbitch. So I could care less.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it in dry conditions either, because here's what I see with Bermuda being given the elbow and in favor of all of these exotic experimental grasses that nobody else in the continental U.S. in the right mind willingly uses except as an experiment. Bermuda just handled, Xeon zoysia doesn't handle dry weather very well.
Go to hell, Xeon zoysia! Go to hell!
Bermuda, on the other hand, will handle dry weather. And by the way, Matt, here's one of my projects. I am going to be converting a practice green that was Seashore paspalum to Tahoma 31.
Hey, okay. That I thought you were going to say Xeon zoysia, and I was about to puke.
No. We're not going to do that. But the reason why I'm going back to Bermuda is because this is in a location where irrigation and watering is very sketchy. It's not like you got the Rainbird golf heads switching on every single morning on the clock. So the paspalum is being a big girl about it. So it's being a big girl.
Same word.
Yeah, it's being a big.
Ray's really toned it down tonight.
Yeah, it's being a little girl about it.
Safe word incoming. Safe word incoming.
Pineapple juice. Pineapple juice.
But Ryan, I'm going to put that practice green back into Tahoma 31, and I'm going to do a no-till. No, and I'm going to do a no-till renovation.
Oh, this guy. I'm
going to do a no.
What's your final mowing height going to be?
About a 10th.
Okay.
About a 10th. I mean, and by the way,
go. What's up?
And it's also going to get the groomer on the mower rather regularly.
I think that would be amazing, because the texture on Tahoma, even just versus iron cutter, like, it is definitely more coarse. Now it's standing up to putting green height. Oh, there's a sod farm out in Oklahoma that's growing it and maintaining it there. There's a couple golf courses. There's a 9-hole course in Arkansas, I think, that all their greens were converted over last year to Tahoma. So it's a pretty versatile grass where it's growing well at 2 inches in lawn height situations, right? Where people are just rotary mowing it. Ray, earmuffs. Okay. But it's also doing well clear down to, a 10th or an 8th. So fantastic grass. Castleberry, if you want to do it, let's talk more offline, because it would be it'd be a cool project. It would be awful. So let's just look at this. You could be
sweetheart, if you're listening, earmuff it, sweetheart. If you're listening, just don't pay attention. Renovation project might be incoming.
Yeah, no, seriously. Turf Boss, if you're listening, your husband and your family could be transcendent figures in Utah lawn care history. Look at it that way, right? In the book someday, they're going to be like, Castleberry. Those people are crazy, but they did it. They freaking did it.
There will be
no more
studies
reseeding.
Yeah,
no more
there'll
reseeding.
Be studies for years to come at every extension office in Utah.
Yeah, they'll be like, they'll probably bring you into the extension office there and be like, they'll hold up like all the cards and be like, all right, what do you see? And you'll be like, I see Bermuda grass.
A butterfly.
As far as the eye can see.
So what? Explain your science behind this, and I'll just be like, I just want grass, man. I just want to throw something down there and make it green.
Georgia, we grow the Bermuda grass down there. So I'm
Bermuda.
gonna grow the Bermuda, Bermuda or Bermuda, and we're gonna grow that some bitch up here too. Because
you said Georgia wrong. You said Georgia wrong.
Georgia.
Yeah, and
there would be one.
If you get to the deep south, like Valdosta, they almost sound like they have a British inflection in their accent. The foghorn, leghorn type of accent. It's a weird old.
I'll tell you, but kind of like they got a little thing dropping off the tip of their tongue.
Yeah,
you know?
it's
like they got the molasses rolling off.
That's
somebody made the comment that Bermuda was illegal to grow in Utah.
Let's find out.
Let's
find out.
You totally can. It is considered a noxious weed there. However, it is used in sports turf and turf grass applications. So you're good.
So you can't even forage. Yeah.
Well,
all right. So as long as there's no animals grazing on it, we're fine.
Well here's the thing. If you go to a vegetatively propagated variety, it is less likely for it to be. Yeah. For it to become a noxious or invasive species, whereas, guess what I hate? I hate the pasture varieties of Bermuda because they seed like crazy and you have a bad time when it contaminates even finer textured Bermudas because now you're in a hard situation where you have to figure out how to kill that coarser, taller growing Bermuda and not fry out your low cut hybrid. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's an extremely rigorous and painful process. So, I'm in favor of a vegetatively propagated variety of Bermuda, and I'm pretty sure that state law would grant an exemption to vegetatively propagated versus if you told them, I'm just going to go out and have an Arizona common seeded lawn.
This is the point in the conversation. This is the point in the conversation where you have to say, I am not a lawyer. Please consult one to make sure that, you release yourself of all liability from any local and state laws that we might be.
No, we're
breaking.
We're better. We're turf lawyers. Yeah, we're fine.
There you go.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, we're turf lawyers.
We are turf lawyers because, our job is, keeping you out of trouble, right? And telling you not to do certain things that you shouldn't do. And then ultimately, if you or one of our other clients gets screwed, our entire job is to unthrust your situation so that you are whole again, right? So that's basically what we do. We can talk offline, but I think there are two legitimate, realistic project and or content ideas for next year. The yodeler has to be one. Like, that's so perfect. And J Pink will do it in a way that we're not going to infringe on. Like, Drew Carey is going to come knocking at your door with a process server to let you know that you've been served for stealing their shit. But the other piece, the Bermuda piece, could be interesting. Maybe not next year, but let's work up to that. Let's get to that point, right? Because you got trees to plant next year. Let's get the trees planted first and take it from there, right? A long time. Right. You just move there, you got a long time. So let's get there. All right. Any final questions for us as we start to wrap this up and get to, oh boy, Matt, Ray, it is serendipitous in the content that we've been afforded and presented and provided this week with the guests that we have for this week, for the show after the show. And honestly, I could not have drawn it up any better. Like, I could have probably called these people and say, hey, can you please make something that would, work well with what we're trying to do? And I'm not sure that even if I put that request into them, that they could have done as good of a job as they have this week. So I'm excited. I'm elated. Real quick, any other questions? Any other thoughts? Mr. Castleberry.
I just want to say thanks, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on here. I truly miss the days when everyone just collaborated and got along and shared information and had the tide rise so all of us could float our ships. And I very much enjoy the community. I enjoy the knowledge. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys taking your time, having me on and let me be on here and spitball some stuff and take jabs and just have a good old time. So thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody in the community.
No doubt.
We
No
love you,
doubt.
Paul.
And
We love
no,
you.
seriously, like,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
you're one, I will say
Thank
that
you,
this
guys.
is one that we've all been looking forward to, and it delivered. It definitely delivered for all of us. So, Matt, with that, take us out with any sponsor talk or any of the gobbledygook that you normally handle, right?
Yeah. If anybody wants to take a look at Joshua Sledge, welcome to the dark side, my friend. You have just entered the armpit of lawn care, as a matter of fact.
It's
We don't wear
unshaven
deodorant
and
in
very
here
sweaty.
because we're afraid of the toxins that come from traditional deodorant. So
We also don't have 5G phones, so
yeah, there's a reason for that.
Oh, gosh.
Where I was going with that, Ryan, I had to stop because I almost said it out loud, and I was like, that would have been banned immediately off the YouTube.
just
That's
wait
some
like
inside baseball.
90
We'll
seconds.
do it on the show after the show.
90 seconds.
Listen, men, if you're out there and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you don't have to be. Honehealth.com/grass factor. Get your testosterone levels checked. You will be stunned at what you come across. Maybe, maybe not. But if you're like me, you would be. And you're going to think to yourself, holy shit, how long have I been dealing with this? And then you're going to go through a weird stage of grief where at first you're going to be like, and then you're going to go through another period where you're kind of like sulking on yourself and you're like, golly, this is ridiculous. And then you're going to go through a period of relief where you're like, oh, there's something I can do about this. It's simple. It's easy. And for $45, you get to find out exactly where you stand. Take the guesswork out. Real doctors, real science, honehealth.com/grass factor. Also, if you're interested in what we're talking about when we say the show after the show, be like our buddy here. Be like Joshua Sledge. Hit the join button. Buy us an airport beer. You can check out and see what we have to do. What we do in the show after the show.
What we have to do?
What?
Holy shit.
Because I started going somewhere else in my head.
That got really
I started
existential
going
really
somewhere
quick.
else in my head. And I was going to say, or if you want to bypass the YouTube so Google doesn't take 50% of everything, head on over to patreon.com/burn and return. Buy us an airport beer. You get a private RSS feed. You get access to free merch. We send out free merch after certain periods of time at the $10 and the $20 level. And you get access to all kinds of different things. You get access to a private Discord, all that fun stuff too. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it all work. And if you've got access to the private Discord, you can still see the show after the show too. Patreon.com/burn and return. And it helps us to be able to do things like provide free merch and also some of the things we have planned for the GIE that we do. That's where it goes. And it keeps us from having to shill Arden 15 and Soxystrobin for
dollar spot
There
that
it
actually
is.
makes it worse.
diseases.
That even makes it worse. So, hey, right on. All right, gentlemen, Thank you so much.
Ice bags,
We'll see
links in the
you.
description.
Peace.